threesomes, one of our top fantasies, and yet the fantasy that is most likely to be very disappointing if you don't approach it the right way.
Disappointed!
So many people chase the fantasy of the threesome without understanding the reality. And this makes what could be a genuinely fun and explorative experience into a letdown, or worse, a painful experience time and time again. But it doesn't have to be this way. In this video, I'm gonna get real about menage a trois. I'm breaking down some threesome myths that couldn't be any further from the truth from my own experience, as well as sharing what makes them great and how to make sure that it's a wonderful experience for all involved. Because yeah, threesomes can be awesome, but they can also be awkward, they can result in hurt feelings, or in some cases, they can even ruin a relationship. So let's put on our safety goggles and dive in. I don't know why I had to include the safety goggles in there. Threesome myths debunked. Before I get into how to successfully have a great threesome, let's quickly do a safety check and go over what not to do. Because there's no better way to ruin a good time than to go into it with unrealistic or even problematic expectations. And there are a few common myths that people fall for time and time again. The biggest is myth number one: more people equals more pleasure. If you are assuming that doubling your partner count will double your pleasure, think again. Sure, it is awesome to have a whole other set of lips and hands and everything else on deck, but you also have double the responsibility. You've got to be present and engaged with two people at once. Well, three really if you count yourself. Threesomes can be super fun and sexy, but they are not automatically funner or more sexy than having sex with a single partner. As with all sexual experiences, it depends so much on chemistry, on trust, on everyone being on the same wavelength. I mean, it can literally feel like all of the stars have to align for the threesome to be great. Sometimes it's also just difficult to find a person who you really vibe with in this way, let alone two at the same time. Now look, I'm not saying that it's not worth all of the effort to try to get a double blowy, or that a double blowy wouldn't feel amazing. I'm just saying that if you go into the threesome with the expectation that it's automatically going to be easier, then you may be disappointed. So lower your expectation, because if you don't approach them the right way, which I'm going to get into later, they can feel disjointed, overwhelming, disappointing, alienating, all that in just a minute. Myth number two: it's just fun, no strings attached sex. Because most threesomes happen outside of, say, like polythrouple partnerships or true romantic commitment between all parties, there's often the idea that it's just a no risk, plain fun, no strings attached way to get laid. And I hate to tell you this, but it's a little more complicated than that. Sex can be very emotionally charged. Things like jealousy, insecurity, weirdness, performance anxiety can always be a part of it. And when you add another person into the mix, it doesn't make those things go away. It just adds a whole other human being to be mindful of and to react to. Sex can be intense, and although it's totally possible to have a fun and no strings attached night, if you are not taking the proper precautions to make sure that you keep things emotionally straightforward, you could fall into a much more complicated situation than you bargained for. Myth number three: threesomes will relight the sexual spark. The last myth I want to address is for those people who are thinking about having a threesome to spice things up in their relationship or light up a spark that they think is missing. Whether it's between you and yourself or you and your partner, a threesome isn't the solution to any problem. A threesome is a awesome bone-on added sprinkle on top of the cake. It's not the answer. It doesn't fix things. If you add another person or two into the mix, when you or your partnership are not on solid ground, it can actually have quite the opposite effect. A threesome is something that you engage with to add on to an already flourishing dynamic. It is not the cure for a problem. So if you are in a rocky spot and thinking about a threesome to spice things up, or maybe there's just someone who you want to sleep with, but you don't want to say that to your partner, so instead you're trying to angle for a threesome. If you're not satisfied with your partner and you think that adding another person would bring you a level of satisfaction, just understand that you're setting yourself up for a situation that is going to end in jealousy, insecurity, or a whole web of emotions that it may be really hard to get out of. But it is also true, as I said in the beginning, that threesomes can be a whole lot of fun. So let's stop talking about the negatives and shift over to what makes threesomes great and how to set yourself up for one where everyone feels good after. Caitlin V's guide to having a great threesome. Number one, make sure everyone truly wants it. The first and most important thing to ask yourself before trying out a threesome is, why do we want this? Why are we doing this for? Does everyone here want it equally? Are we all a big, enthusiastic, wholehearted, informed? Yes. Before you go out looking for a third or become a third yourself, it is important to make sure that everyone is truly into it. This means that you should never pressure someone into having a threesome because you want it, and you should never engage in a threesome just for the benefit of another person. It's the pressure and lack of true desire that actually leaves us feeling vulnerable to jealousy, hurt, or resentment. In order to have a great threesome, everyone has to be truly down for their own personal pleasure and excitement. It's that simple. Number 2, clear communication before, during, and after. No one thinks that it's super sexy to talk logistics until you've actually tried it and realized that it makes sex way hotter. Before you have a threesome, there are a few things that you have absolutely got to talk through. If you are with a partner and you are bringing in a third, have a clear and honest conversation about what you're both hoping to get out of the experience, all of the fears and reservations that you have, and all of the boundaries that you want to enforce so that everyone feels safe. And when you're finding your third, that conversation has got to take place again. It's much easier to avoid confusion when everyone knows what they're getting into. Is this a one-night stand? Are we going to maintain contact? What are the safe sex protocols that we'll be taking? What do all of us need as aftercare? Are we going to have a sleepover, or is our third going to leave afterward? And after that conversation, if you're not clear about anything, ask more questions. Trust me, everybody will appreciate what it takes to get to clarity. Number 3, choose the right person. Perhaps the most crucial part of having a threesome is choosing the right people to do it with. Sure, sometimes 3 people meet and they just want to get it on and it just works out. Again, all the stars are aligned, but more likely than not, you're going to have to do some planning. And you may have a pre-existing relationship with one or maybe both of the other people involved. Choosing the right person will look different for everyone, but it is important to really consider if and how this person is going to affect your relationship with the other person. So if you're in a couple, have you decided to pursue a threesome with somebody who you both know? What are the implications of having sex with that person? If you've chosen a stranger, how are you sure that they're the right fit? What if you bump into them again next weekend? What will you do? Is anyone going to keep in contact with them? Are you both going to keep in contact with them? All of these are just the baseline of things that you want to consider. And if you are the third, the unicorn or the dragon, ask yourself, is this a couple that I would want to hang out with, or is it going to be awkward after? What are their expectations regarding how I interact with each of the 2 members of this couple? Am I gonna have what I need after we're all done? Do I need snuggles? Do I need to wake up in their bed? Do I need breakfast? What is it that I'm going to need once everyone has reached climax and I'm on my way out of this relationship? There's no wrong answers here. We just need clarity. Really give some thought to whether or not you will feel comfortable with the dynamic after you get it on with these people. Because once you made your bed, you kind of have to lie at it. Number 4, focus on connection, not choreography. Now that we've covered all of our other bases and we feel good about who we are jumping into bed with, what happens next? Funnily enough, a lot of the advice that goes for partnered sex still applies with threesomes. And yet so many people just throw the playbook right out the window. Just like sex with one person, a threesome isn't going to look like it does in porn. It's okay to go slow, to take breaks, to laugh, to shift things around as needed throughout the experience. If you're overly focused on the choreography, you're probably missing out on most of the fun and pleasure. When you're with 2 naked, eager bodies, it is easy to get overwhelmed and feel nervous about what each person should be doing and to who at any given time. The best way to overcome all of that is the same advice that I give when having sex with just one person, which is bring your focus back on connection. Don't try to perform. Instead, try to feel. Don't go for orgasms. Go for pleasure and experience instead. The best threesomes happen when everyone looks out for each other equally. Follow your sense of arousal and play, not a fantasy idea of what it should all look like. And make sure that no matter how deep you are in the throes of passion with one partner, that you are always tracking the emotional and physical state of the other. Cannot emphasize this enough. I think the number one thing that ruins a threesome is when one person gets overly invested in one other person and forgets that there are 3 of us here making this a thing. Now, that's not to say that you won't rotate your action, and we'll talk about that in a second, but I'm talking about like gets selfish, forgets that there are other people involved, takes things in a direction that's not mutually beneficial for everyone. Number 5, take breaks and rotate attention. Threesomes can be intense and overwhelming, both physically and emotionally, so don't be afraid to take breaks and check in with each other, especially if you're new to this. Breaks can actually ease tension. They can give us a chance to reset. They can give us an opportunity to work through any weirdness, and they can make everyone feel more grounded. bit. Also, let go of the idea that everyone has to be doing all the things at all of the time. Rather than trying to engage all three bodies at once always, let the focus shift naturally from one person to the next. Sometimes two people will interact while the third is watching or touching. The key is just letting it be fluid and dynamic. Think about it more like a dance than a precise balancing act. One of my favorite threesomes actually ended up with me being a voyeur to the two other folks. I still felt very connected and involved, even though I was just sitting back and enjoying the show. And they kept me involved. They didn't just run off and do their own thing. Actually, if you would like a video from me just breaking down my threesome experiences, let me know in the comments. I'm not gonna make that unless y'all really ask for it. So yes, threesomes can be fun. But just remember that when you add another person into the mix, you also add their needs, their feelings, and their preferences into the mix, and you shift the dynamic between you and your partner, sometimes in hot and sometimes in challenging ways. A sexy threesome actually isn't just about sex. It's about trust, self-awareness, and massively expanded opportunities for connection. If you're working on a solid foundation between you and your partner and you've chosen the right person, it's gonna be a lot easier to lean into the sensations and the moment and your intuition without worrying about the awkward or messy stuff, which is gonna make for a great time for everybody. Let me know in the comments if I left anything out. I wanna hear your advice, your best threesome stories, and anything else that you wanna add into this conversation. And of course, let me know if you want to hear more personal stories from me, maybe on Patreon. I'm Caitlin V. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you so much, and I'll see you here later. Bye.